All right, and we are live. Welcome to the Bronx Bomber Babble, episode 1, the inaugural episode of the Bronx Bomber Babble podcast. I am your host, Matthew Luzzy. You can call me Luigi. You can call me Luzzy. You can call me Matt. You can call me whatever. And I'm with Nick, and I'm with Andrew. We're all from Bronx Bomber Ball, and yeah, this is our podcast. Say what's up, guys.
What's good?
How's it going,
Andrew,
y'all?
this is where you say hi. There you go. Fantastic.
So we want to start it off with we were discussing who is our least favorite Yankee of all time, because all these podcasts, they discuss who's their favorite Yankee of all time, who's their favorite Yankee moment of all time. Like, look, we know your favorite Yankee moment of all time is either Boone hitting the home run in Game 7. It's either it's something with the World Series. We get it, okay? We all have the same favorite Yankee moment. But who's our least favorite Yankee? And, I'm just going to start, and it's a guy who's on the roster who shouldn't be on the roster. And that's right. My least favorite Yankee of all time is Jacoby Ellsbury. I'm going to say it. I know his Yankee book is not finished. Hopefully it is soon. But, he's just still there, and I hate him so much. So who do you guys have?
Well, I'm going to corner the market on Kevin Youkilis. This was one of my least favorite players of all time when he was on the Red Sox. And it was just demoralizing beyond all get out when we signed him. Just from he always looked like he just got done eating a beaver with the facial hair and everything. And his batting stance, that was probably the most screwy one I've ever seen. It was all for show, just a clown kind of guy. And then we signed him, and he played all of 20-something games, didn't really contribute, and that was it. So to me, that was just a horrifying Yankee moment, signing one of my least favorite players of all time.
It's just so tough for me to put Youkilis there, because what you said, he only played a month's worth of baseball for the Yankees, and then he was hurt, and then you forgot he was ever even on the Yankees. But I do hate Kevin Youkilis, and seeing him in a Yankee uniform did hurt. Andrew, I know you were having a little bit of trouble with this. Who's your least favorite Yankee of all time?
Oh, man, of all time. I have to go back to right after we won the World Series in 2009. There's so much life in those next few years' teams. I'm going to go to Chan-Ho Park, who we signed. I believe he was with the Phillies the year before. He was on the 2010 squad. I just felt like every time he came out of the bullpen, the guy gave up two runs. I could look it up. I bet you he gave up something like 10 home runs that year in limited appearances. But I just felt like I still go to a lot of games on Friday nights, and I just have these horrifying memories of him coming in and just getting destroyed every time he took the mound.
Yeah, there's a lot of Yankee names that could have been inserted from about 2010 to 2015, but I think Jacoby Ellsbury, I think Kevin Youkilis, and I think Park are all three worthy names that.
Actually, can I switch to Brandon Drury, since I seem to be leading the hate train against him on Twitter?
Yes.
That's a good transition, Scott. So as everyone knows, the Yankees, in the last week, recently traded for Brandon Drury, and basically they didn't give up much for him. Nick Solak's gone. He's in Tampa now. Taylor Widener's gone. He's in Arizona. So they really didn't give up much for him. But the main topic is how so many people viewed this as a great trade, as, oh, wow, we have Brandon Drury now.
The second coming of the Didi trade.
Yeah, a guy who's 25 years old, and, he's 3 years. He had 270 with 15 home runs last year. And I viewed this – my first thought about this trade was this takes away a spot from Andujar or Torres. And I know Gleiber might not be ready for the start of the season. He might not even get that much MLB playing time this season. But I really think, I was thinking about this, I think it's because of just how much success Judge and how much success Sanchez, and even guys like Severino, how much success our young guys have had, has made us just say, all right, bring on Andujar, bring on Gleiber, bring on all these young guys, because they've all worked out so far, right? Or most of them have. So I just really didn't see the point of this Drury trade, especially if it's just going to take away a starting spot from one of these young guys. What do you guys think?
Well, in my article,
Scott, I know you wrote the piece, so why don't you go ahead?
Well, it kind of boiled down to me as we got to look at Drury and see who he is as a player. And this is a guy who hit 267 Only had a 317 on base percentage and a 1.6 WAR. And for whatever reason, he's being labeled as a power hitter, but he only hit 13 home runs last year. And if I have my stat right, there was 110 guys or 117 players who hit 20 or more home runs last year. And Drury hit 13 in what's being considered the juiced ball era. So to me, it boils down to Drury's an okay player, and he would be a good upgrade, say, over Ronald Torres for kind of a placeholder for Torres, because we all know he's going to be sent down for at least a couple of weeks, to kind of manipulate the service time. And they're going to say, well, it's probably for the injury to recover. But to kind of hold that place. And so in this article, I looked at kind of Torres and Andujar versus Drury. And I think with Torres, we can all agree this is a top prospect, like top 5 in all of baseball. His write-ups say he's going to be contending for batting crowns while hitting 20-plus home runs. That is like how Jose Altuve levels things. And, I personally think he shouldn't have won the MVP, but he won the MVP last year. And so I think that's the type of player the Yankees need on their team. With Andujar, it's a little bit of a harder sell because for whatever reason, Yankees fans are obsessing over his defense. And here's the thing. Young players, minor league players, to struggle with defense, it's not like a unique thing. This happens. And something that I also pointed out in this Drury article is he made 11 errors last year, 10 at second base, and 1 at his one start at third base. Now, you know who else made 11 errors last year is Starlin Castro, and we didn't exactly hail him as a defensive wizard. So to me, I put Andujar's 2017 minors numbers against Drury's 2017's MLB numbers. And look, I know there's a difference between the MLB and the minors, but the point of the exercise is I think that Andujar can easily spell Drury, and I think he'd be better than Drury. So I say, why not give the kids a shot? I mean, we did it with Gary, we did it with Judge, and it worked out fantastically. Why not give the kids a shot? Because I think they can be better short and long-term options than Drury.
Andrew?
For me, it boils down to the defense. I think we all know what Gleyber can do with the bat. We know what Miguel Andujar can do with the bat. We've certainly seen it the past few days in spring training. But just the fact that Drury's being labeled as this, infielder with a high defensive prowess, and that Miguel is going to struggle at the hot corner, I just don't buy into that. I mean, another thing that Scott pointed out in the article is that Andujar's best skill is his arm. He's got a 70 arm on the 2080 grade. The guy's got a rifle. If he has to work on footwork, that's why they work on stuff like that all spring. Derek Jeter, I want to bring back to that, made, I think, 56, 57 errors his first year of pro ball. And then he went on to win 3 Gold Gloves, although we probably one of them was illegitimate. But the point is, that I think you have a guy in Tyler Wade who could do everything that Drury's being asked to do. He didn't really prove much last year. But that's the guy to me. He's going to be the one who should be starting at second base if we're going to put Gleyber in AAA to either get work or just delay his service clock. Wade has they make the comparisons to the Ben Zobrist type player.
I think that's a really good point. Is a lot of this for me was, I guess, I didn't see the point of the trade either. You have Tyler Wade, who I was kind of excited, he came up last year and his playing time was sporadic, and it's hard for guys to come up and do that. I thought we kind of had the internal depth with Tyler Wade. You guys might laugh, but look at Danny Espinosa. This is a guy he's hit 2 spring training home runs, or I'm sorry, 1, I think. Or is it 2? Somebody can correct me there. But I think he's not playing that. Okay, and he's played in the majors before, and you also had Jace Peterson. So I don't think we really consider Espinosa or Peterson legitimate threats for the major league roster, but I thought we already had that internal depth. So again, like Andrew was saying, it's not like Drury's a defensive wizard. The Yankees are saying they're looking at him to play third base over Miguel Andujar. Well, he only played 1 game at third base last year, and he made an error in that 1 game. So I'm not exactly convinced that he can man down the hot corner any better than, Andujar or even Chase Headley on his worst day kind of thing. So I say, why not put Andujar's, what appears to be a superior bat in over that if you're willing to concede some defensive prowess, in that place anyways.
Mm-hmm. I really just boil it down to.
I think we just lost Luigi.
Oh, did we? Okay, well that's all. That's all good. It's still alive. I just don't know how to actually shut it off.
No, we'll add him back in.
Well, yeah,
We
we'll
can
get him
figure this
back
out here real
in.
quick.
All right, if you want to go ahead and add him
While
back
I
in, I'll
figure
kind of
this
move
out,
us on
why don't
to
do you want
to
to
our.
pick it up from here, and
And
I'll work on getting
press
it
the
back
wrong
on.
button.
He's back.
Why?
I
Hello,
literally,
Luigi. I think we were just.
no, I literally had so many windows open and two X's were right next to each other, and I was like, "Is this
Oh
the
no.
right one?" Oh, it's not, is it? Because then my audio just cut. But what I was
Well, I
saying,
think we can just edit this out.
yeah, no, this is why it's the rough draft, right? But what I was
Absolutely.
saying is that I just want to see the young guys in there. I think this team is talented enough that we could afford to say, all right, we were going to start Andujar at third opening day. And guess what? If he's hitting 130 or something, we could afford to do that. Just like Bird was hitting 120 with his broken foot last year. And it really didn't affect us all too much. So moving on, because I think that the whole Drury, second base, third base, Andujar, Torres, Wade debate will be settled in time. But something I noticed today about the lineup, and I looked at the lineup because the first few lineups were some typical classic spring training lineups, right? You had a bunch of guys there that almost about like one starter in two games. But today's lineup, it looked like almost a preview of opening day, possibly. And I'm going to read it off real quick. You had Gardner in left, Judge DHing, Stanton in right, Sanchez at obviously behind the plate, Bird at first, Didi at short, batting sixth, Hicks seventh, Drury eighth, and Torres ninth. And you had Torres playing second, Drury playing third, and Hicks playing center. And obviously, Luis Ceso's on the mound, and goes without saying that won't be happening ever. But what do you guys think about that lineup? Because I know you have Gleiber in there at 9. He might not be in the MLB to start. I know that, but I'm just looking at the whole, because a lot of people are trying to put Bird in the top half of the lineup, and I just don't see why. I think you should have your four best hitters, which are Judge, Stanton, Sanchez, and Didi, all in the top half, and then throw Gardner in there because he's the leadoff hitter. What do you guys think?
Andrew, I'll let you take this one since I know you're quite high on Bird. I'll go after you.
This is where we differ. I personally like to keep Bird somewhere between the three right-handers, not necessarily to keep a righty-lefty balance throughout the lineup, but I just think that you can maximize what he's capable of if you give him a lot of protection in front of him and behind him. And again, I don't think that you're losing so much on the back end by bumping everyone down. The only thing that I don't like is if you want to keep Didi up, the risk is I really hate batting Gary all the way down in sixth. So ideally you don't want that. But for me, if they're gonna keep Judge and Stanton for the high on base 2-3, they want to get both those guys batting in the first inning. I think that's almost confirmed. I would like to see Bird 4, Gary 5, Didi 6, or some variation of that here. I know Bird hasn't shown much other than what he did in the playoffs last year, but I think given the right protection, he could be exponentially better than he could be batting sixth with, let's say, Aaron Hicks behind him.
See, my whole thing is, look, you could make several arguments that Judge, Gary, and Stanton are, I don't know what, 3 of the 10 best hitters, 3 of the 15. I don't want to throw out any numbers.
At least in the American League, yeah.
That's what they could be. They're 3 of the best hitters in baseball, and you have to have.
It's probably the best threesome
together.
of hitters in the MLB.
Absolutely.
I don't think you're going to find a better 3 hitters on the same team.
Absolutely. So that you have to have those guys together. You have to have those guys. You definitely have to have Judge and Stanton together, and I think you have to put Sanchez right there because they all protect each other, and they're your best hitters. And there's no pitcher in the world that when they see Judge, Stanton, and Gary in the lineup, that's a freaking nightmare for anyone. Yeah, they strike out a lot, but man, there's going to be some big innings with those 3 hitting together. And with Didi, you can't hit Didi sixth. He's probably going to have the highest average on the team. You just cannot have him, your guy, who's probably the one guy. Didi might be the one guy that hits over 300. I think Judge and Stanton and Gary, they all could hit 300, but I think they're going to be around 280, 290. I think Didi's the guy that if you have one 300 hitter, it will be Didi. And for that reason, I don't think he could hit sixth. And Bird, I just don't see Bird hitting more than 30 homers this year, 25. How is he going to hit fifth with those types of numbers?
Well, I kind of analyzed it from the standpoint of a lot of people will be like, well, you don't want three righties together just because of, righty-righty matchup. And so what I did is I did a quick rundown of, Gary, Judge, and Stanton's numbers versus left-handers and versus right-handers. So for Stanton versus right-handers, he hit 270, and versus left-handers, he hit 323. So that's your typical right-handed batter split. Hits better against lefties and, a little worse against righties. Still, hitting 270 against righties isn't bad. But Gary and Judge are actually really interesting examples because Gary hits 282 against right-handers and 266 against left-handers. So there's a reverse split where he's actually worse against left-handers than he is right-handers. And the same with Judge, where he hit 298 against right-handers and he hit 230 against left-handers in 2017. I didn't realize he was that bad against left-handers. He absolutely hits better as a right-handed hitter. So to me, I kind of echo what Luigi's saying here as far as keep those three guys together. They can hit, right-handed pitching, no problem. The matchups shouldn't be an issue. So for me, it all boils down to I don't want Sanchez hitting any lower than fifth. I think he's an elite hitter. I mean, he's overlooked because you got Stanton and Judge in this lineup. So I kind of want him behind those guys. I think that those guys will be getting on base a lot and provide a lot of opportunities to drive in runs. I don't necessarily think Bird's going to have a bad year, but I just trust what Gary's done the last couple of years more than what Bird's done the last couple of years, and that's what it boils down to me.
I think my biggest concern is not the three righties together for matchup sakes. It's the two lefties afterwards for matchup sakes. If you're able to get through the buzzsaw of Judge, Stanton, Sanchez, and then you got a top lefty, like let's say Andrew Miller come in to face back-to-back Didi, although Didi hits okay against lefties, but the Didi and Bird, that almost shows a bit of an underbelly that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, I really just think you have to have those three guys together, and I think you have to have Didi higher up in the lineup. That's
just for the sake of a little bit of a YOLO argument. Then, would any of you gentlemen propose batting
Judge
one of those? Yes, I was about to say, would any of you propose batting one of those three, at leadoff spot, much in the way that the Blue Jays did with Jose Bautista, kind of in an attempt to get him the most at bats usual? I don't know where you're going to put Brett Gardner.
So you're always going to get guys on base.
So I played travel baseball in South Florida, and a lot of things I saw like these really good teams doing as I got older was they would just put their hitter that would always be the 3 or 4 hitter at leadoff. And it just makes so much sense because they're getting the most at bats, aren't they? So I wouldn't be opposed to either seeing Judge or even Stan hitting leadoff. Now I was under the impression that Stanton, when he hit all those home runs last year, it was in the leadoff spot and they moved him there, but he was moved to the 2 spot, which is still pretty unconventional for a guy like Stanton to be in the 2 spot. So yeah, I'm all for Judge or Stanton to be in a 1 or 2 spot.
That being the case, then, Andrew, would you be okay with keeping those three together and putting Bird at the 4 spot, or are you still concerned about, Bird and Didi? Would you want to maybe move Bird in between the three?
If you're gonna do 1-2, I would do Judge leadoff, Stanton 2, maybe Didi 3, Gary 4 to protect him, and then Bird 5. Or you could swap again. You could swap the lefties. If you're going to move those guys up, Gardner probably drops all the way down to 9. I don't see how you could put him in the middle of the lineup.
I actually like that lineup quite a bit, what you just suggested right there.
You see, in my early thoughts, I was thinking to myself, man, something's telling me Gardner's just not going to be a leadoff. Like, he's not going to be good enough to be a leadoff hitter this year. And I could be wrong, and, he could still have that really good on-base percentage and that great plate discipline. But I don't know. It's going to be tough for Gardner to keep that leadoff spot this year, especially if he senses some fire from some of the younger guys. So let's see.
And you almost get a leadoff wraparound if you put him at 9. Based on if an inning ends with the 8 guy, he's leading off technically anyway. The leadoff man only really matters the first inning. So.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up this show with. I know we haven't really thought about these, but give me one just bold prediction, one hot take for the season. I want to hear it. Now, you can't just say the Yankees are going to win the World Series because that's not really a hot take. That's just saying the Yankees are going to win the World Series. I want a hot take that's going to raise my eyebrows. So, Andrew, I want you to start because I think I know what you're going to say.
If you're thinking I'm going to say Bird's going to hit 40 bombs, I'm going to shy away from that just because I have something that I've been thinking about the past few days. I honestly think we're going to see a whole other Dellin Betances this year. I think he had the whole offseason to think about his control issues. Apparently, he lost a bunch of weight, so maybe he's not throwing around as much weight up on the mound, which can help him, stabilize his delivery. Each of the last 4 years, he's been an all-star pitcher. He's had, I think, before he imploded last year, he was at 0.4 ERA and had a stretch where he gave up 1 earned run in like 22 innings, like something stupid. I mean, the guy can do that, and I don't think that's sustainable over a full season, kind of like we saw with Craig Kimbrell and Fernando Rodney a couple of years ago, where they both had sub-1 ERAs the whole year. But I think Dellin could be a real factor and maybe regain the 8 spot and just be a dominating force ahead of Chapman this year.
I was thinking about putting Betances as like my hot take too, but I mean, Betances is a guy that halfway through the season last year, his ERA was 0.4. I mean, he was just unhittable through the first few months of the season last year. So, I mean, it really wouldn't be – I mean, it would be surprising if he just had a year where he was one of the best setup men in baseball. But it would be hard to imagine after that postseason that he had where he was brutal. He
throw a strike.
He got the yips. I mean, you haven't seen that since Little League. But, Nick, it's your turn because I'm still thinking of mine, to be honest.
Well, I'll go with something I kind of put in an article a little while ago, and I'm going to say that Sonny Gray is going to be the best Yankees pitcher. I know that this isn't necessarily the most, popular take, but I guess that's why it's bold.
Believe me, it's everywhere.
Is it? Oh, well, then you know what? I guess my article made
lots of this on Twitter the past few weeks.
Well, here's what it all boils down to for me is, number one, I think the best Yankees pitcher is going to be between Luis Severino and Sonny Gray. I don't think anybody's going to doubt that. Tanaka gave up 35 home runs last year. I think he's going to be better this year because there's nowhere to go but up from that kind of down season. So I just don't seriously consider him to be in this conversation. Gray this year didn't necessarily have a bad year as a whole, had a 3.55 ERA, and as for a whole on the year, but with the Yankees, it's a 3.72. And he did have some issues keeping the ball in the park. But to me, a lot of it boils down to, I think that there were some residual injury concerns there. All of 2016 was an injury-riddled mess for Gray, and he was horrible. There was a point in time where there were articles saying, the A's blew it. They're not going to be able to trade him for more than a bag of balls, all this and that. And things didn't look to be getting that much better when he started the year on the disabled list in 2017. And so he was better, obviously, than in 2016. But I think, a year away from all those injuries, he can return to himself because in 2014, 2015, years where he was healthy, he was a 200-inning pitcher and, a 3 ERA in 2014 and a 2.73 in 2015. And that's the kind of guy that the Yankees need because I think that with Luis Severino, he might run into a little bit of a wall with all the innings that he threw last year. That was the most he's ever thrown in his Major League Baseball career. And he was outstanding, but I think it kind of showed at the end of the year. I don't know if he was just rattled or it was nerves, but I'd have to think a big part of it is he didn't have that much gas left in the tank. So I think that it wouldn't be – I know it's not technically a sophomore slump, but maybe like a sophomore starting slump for Luis Severino. And I don't think he's going to be bad. I just think that, Sonny Gray is poised to really come back. He's had a full, he's going to have a full spring to work with Larry Rothschild, who I think is actually very underrated as a pitching coach. And so I think he gets back to his old self, and I think he's more like the 2014, 2015 Sonny Gray than the Sonny Gray we saw in 2017.
Some very good bold predictions. Now my bold prediction, I'm gonna stick with what I've already been talking about, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that both Miguel Andujar and Gleyber Torres will be starting for the Yankees by the end of the season. And I think they'll both of them will be in the lineup, and I think they'll both be really big parts of this team. I mean, I just see so much potential in both those guys. Obviously, Gleiber, it goes without saying. And I didn't I was thinking about this, and I said to myself, well, saying Gleiber is going to be in this starting lineup, is that really bold? And I think it kind of is because of his surgery. And I know it's Tommy John on the left elbow. It's not his throwing elbow, but it still could be a bit of a obstacle for him to get back to full strength, and that could be a big hurdle for him. So I think that Gleiber and Andujar will both be starting for this team by the end of the year. And I mean, can you imagine an infield? You have Garrett catcher, Bird at first, Gleiber at second, Didi at short, and Andujar at third. Whew, that's just beautiful, man.
Manny Machado, who?
Who? Yeah, forget
Exactly.
him.
Exactly.
Well, hey, let's do a bonus real quick. A bonus on Machado, because for whatever reason, we've been getting all things saying, well, could this Drury acquisition do something that's leading to a Manny Machado trade?
That's like the first thing I thought when we traded for Drury. I said, well, there goes Machado.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that the Yankees, they acquired Brandon Drury because that was the missing piece that Baltimore wanted.
That was the centerpiece.
Manny Machado midseason. They said, you know what? We'll pass on Gleyber Torres, Clint Frazier. You can put that package aside. We want Brandon Drury. And so I don't know why we've been getting all these comments on our articles about that, but it just makes me laugh. I actually think we need to have a freezing cold take on the podcast regularly, and because we know some clowns have been saying that the Brandon Drury trade is better than the Stanton trade. Like, they just get so much material to work with.
Well, someone that will go unnamed said that the Drury trade was quote unquote lower risk than the Stanton trade, which is just a stupid argument. Saying something that's lower risk. Like, going to the bathroom is lower risk than like doing anything, but going to the bathroom is still not like a big impact move. Like, it's just
yeah.
To
hey man, I don't get all the hostility.
Hey, the lower.
You're just talking in circles, bro.
To say something, it's like, oh, it's lower risk than Stanton. Like, you're talking about risk when we just acquired a guy that hit 50, has the most home runs in baseball in over a decade.
Won a Most Valuable Player award.
He won the MVP.
Correct.
He hit the most? Like, when was the last time someone hit 59 home runs? It was like 03, 04?
I think Sammy Sosa was the last guy who hit 59 or more.
He hit 59 home runs in a terrible Marlins lineup, or at least a not elite like this Yankees lineup is.
Yeah, I was about to say, Marcelo almost popped 40 too. So, but they're all three.
But still, in a gigantic ballpark, and you take that guy and you put him in Yankee Stadium, his pop-ups are going to be going over the fence. So, hey Luigi, if you don't mind, I'd like to do one last segment that we haven't planned for.
We could keep going. This is the rough draft. Like,
okay,
it really doesn't matter. We're on.
I kind of just wanted to explain the meaning behind a word that you're going to be seeing a lot on Bronx Bomber Ball, Bronx Bomber Babble, and that is just a beautiful seven-letter word called yeeters. Now, yeeters, it's a word, but it has no definition. It's a lifestyle, if you will. I think the best way to explain yeeters is to use examples. Yeeters is when Didi Gregorius hits 2 home runs against Corey Kluber in Game 5 of the ALDS. Yeeters is when you score the really hot girl's number, at the bar. Yeeters is when you win the lottery. Yeeters is when you DM a Ukrainian skater and she answers you back. So you're going to see this word a lot, and I hope that everybody catches on because we're going to try and make this into a movement. It was born here deep in the heart of Bronx Bomber Ball. And we're bringing it to you live, and I just hope that we could, by the end of the season, this will be posted everywhere. You guys got a Yeeters blast with us. We're really counting on you guys to make this a movement.
What'd you say, Scott, about DD?
I said Yeeters.
That was a Yeeters
Folks,
moment.
when that happens,
that was incredible.
You stand up and you yell Yeeters as loud as you can.
Well, it really is just great knowing that this Yankees team's in such a great position moving forward. They have a new manager, right? No more Binder Joe. I know how our boy Steve feels about that. We have the NL MVP on our team. We have the most popular man in baseball. It's a good time to be a Yankees fan. And
I agree. It's looking up. It's funny where you look at where this team was a year ago and how I look back at articles that I wrote that others wrote where we're saying, oh, this season's really a lost cause. It's just to kind of let the young guys get some experience and everything.
I predicted the Yankees to go 84-78 this past in 2017.
Well, and then you look back and
I don't think that was that all. I don't think that was that like.
No, I don't think it was unreasonable. You look at a lot of guys stepped up and really played their tails off.
And you knew what these guys were capable of. I mean, maybe not to the extent Judge, but I mean, we saw what Gary did in his 40-some-odd games at the end of 2016. I think going into last year, the expectation was they would compete for a wild card until the last week of the season. Not they'd win the wild card, the first wild card spot by 5-6 games, whatever it was, and it'd be in contention for the division until the second to last game of the season. So it absolutely blew us away. And then to go ahead and add the National League MVP this past offseason, man, night and day.
Dude, it's a good time to be a Yankees fan. I think Gary is a really good example too, because like part of me was worried, wow, he had that really great tear, that hot stretch, in 2016. Will it keep up in 2017? And it absolutely did. He came down to earth a little bit, but he wasn't that far off the pace.
He got injured the first week of the season, remember?
Yeah, he missed a month.
Yeah, and hit 30-something dongs still. So that was impressive. It was good to kind of affirm, because to me, we see players have good years all the time, but I don't want to see them follow it up with an equally good year to be sure it's for real. And so that was just an encouraging sign for me. So hopefully this next year we see Judge and Severino continue the paces and performance that they set going forward here in 2018.
Now, since I'm just gonna keep firing off topics this show, now our good friends, our good pals, the Boston Red Sox, recently acquired a guy by the name of JD Martinez. And what do you guys think about that? Eduardo Nunez. What do you guys think about them getting JD Martinez? Because I know the numbers back it up, and I know the guy hit like 40 home runs in like 120 games last year, but I don't think JD Martinez is like a premier hitter in baseball. I don't think he's like a top 10 hitter like a lot of Red Sox fans think he is.
JD Martinez has had 2 complete seasons where he's
had one season where he's played more than. I mean, so is Stanton, but Stanton's numbers I think are much better than JD. And I know people say, "Well, like the OPS and all this is the same."
If you compare
Carlos Stanton is better than JD Martinez. Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah, I think JD Martinez definitely adds length to the lineup. He for sure adds some pop that they didn't have. I think they finished 26th, 27th in the league in home runs last year, which is the most un-Red Sox thing
they might have been
in my lifetime.
They might have been last in the AL, honestly.
It's possible. Either that or 14th or 15th. Again, it's going to create a little bit of logistics issues because he's going to be basically full-time DH. There's no way he's going to get starts regularly in the outfield over Benintendi, Betts, and Jackie Bradley Jr., barring an injury. And then if one of those 3 guys do get injured, JD is a horrible left fielder, and he's never fielded off the monster. There's just a lot of things to happen that I could see going wrong. But again, it does add a lot of length to their lineup. So it's not a bad move, but I don't think it's a world-breaking move for them either.
Well, JD Martinez hit 45 home runs last year, and the Yankees have a guy who hit 52 in Judge and a guy who hit 59 in Stanton. So I'm honestly not fazed by it, not bothered by it in the least bit. I still think that the Yankees have the superior roster. Aside from Chris Sale, the Red Sox pitching staff, to me, doesn't strike a lot of fear in my heart. Now, in all fairness, they might be able to say that back about the Yankees pitching staff and say, hey, outside of Severino, who do you guys have? But, we have the superior bullpen, I think, and the superior lineup, top to bottom, I think. So all in all, this is something that we knew was going to happen all winter. So maybe that's why I'm not so fazed by it. But to me, I still see the Yankees honestly taking the division this year. And, who knows? Maybe he, a full season in Fenway, maybe he hits 50-something home runs. But I'd honestly bet against it. Like I said, as it is right now, I'm not bothered by it.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have to talk about. This was our first episode. We're gonna have a lot more episodes. We could probably even do another episode tomorrow if Alex is around. Like he said, he would be at like 7 at like the crack of dawn. But
yes.
You know what? We We'll also start linking these to the Bronx Bomber Ball Twitter when we're about to go live, and we'll also start downloading these and putting them on iTunes so you could listen to them on your way to work. So for me, Matt, aka Luigi, Nick, and Andrew, this is
Yeeters.
Yeeters. This is Bronx Bomber Babble signing out.
Yeeters ball. Peace, guys.